few hard conversations.
Hello, welcome to the special meeting, March 23rd of the Board of Finance. If you are able to, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this point in the meeting, if there are any delegations from the public that wish to speak to the agenda, you're welcome to come up. Okay. Mike, come on up. Identify yourself and your address, please.
That's right. Evening. I'm Mike Schultz. I live on Lover's Lane in East Lyme. Just a taxpayer, and I wanted to come tonight to just a couple thoughts. It's just my thoughts. I speak for no one but myself, but I thank all of you for your efforts that you put forth here in the Board of Education, of course, and for the time that you're giving to us. And I think it's just my opinion that I am not in favor of this budget as it's coming forward. I've read it. I want to see a bit of what people are saying here in the presentation, but I feel that we have over the many years always stated it's just not sustainable as we're going, and it's getting worse and worse every year. And this year, in my opinion, it's far in excess of where it should be. And I've studied contracts for both the town and the boards, and the town is providing us 100% of services to all of the community. That's not the same situation from the school board. I mean, it's not that I'm not against education, but I am against the making all the seniors contribute at the level that they have to contribute, as when the doors for the other towns are just opening up and they're spilling into our community. And after the kids are getting educated, they leave, and we're stuck with it. And we have a lot of other expenses that are coming down the road. The schools are going to need it, and they're talking about now moving students around for people who have already bought homes in other ends of the town, and that's, to me, it's totally stupid. If you're going to do something like that, move the teachers. That's one move, as opposed to moving whole families to other districts or having to bus them. And I've looked at the most recent parts in the contracts, and I'm finding that especially at the administrative level, the compensation increases coming up are from $4,000 to $13,000. And that also can apply, but not to the same level, to the teachers. And there's hundreds of them. And we're getting socked with having to support all that. It's in the contracts. Somebody look at me like I got four eyes. I've got the contracts, and they're online. Look at the compensations that are being provided. I think everybody needs to have increase in compensations, but this level is ridiculous. It's just not necessary. And the other last thing I'll just say, and I'll be out of your hair, is that we are continuously using this thing about percentages. I'm sure we will probably add in the board tonight, well, it's this percent increase, it's that percent of what? It's a ludicrous word to even use. It means nothing. It's like, I know what $10 is, but I don't know necessarily what 2% is. We go to the grocery store, you go to the gas station, you pay with dollars, you don't pay with percents. So we need to tell the public what these dollar values are, not percents. Meaningless. So I would ask that we do something to stop that percentage use. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Any others from the public? Any others from the public? Any others from the public? Okay. We'll now turn to new business, and our new business is budget reviews of the Board of Education, and the Board of Education will be presenting tonight. And will you be doing the presenting, Eric?
I'm going to open and then turn it over to
Oh,
the
okay.
superintendent. Does
Okay.
that work?
That works fine. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Rich. Hi, Eric Bauman, East Lyme Board of Ed Chair. I have just some brief comments, and I know you want to get to asking questions. You've read through most of our information already, and our superintendent will walk through the presentation, but we do want to make sure there's plenty of time for you to ask the questions and go through in more detail. I thought for my piece, I just want to provide some highlights from this year, just so you get an idea of some of the things accomplishments that we have in our schools. And this is I just picked out a handful. There's many, many more. We were rated the 10th best high school in Connecticut from Money Magazine. We've had 2 students who won the state business club competition, and they're going to nationals. We had a student, which you probably may have read in the paper, who won the extremely prestigious honor of the Congressional Award Gold Medal, which I think is the highest award you can achieve for a young student. I think it's age 13 to 22 or thereabouts. We have our EMT program, which we partner with, it's at East Lyme, but we partner with Waterford and Old Lyme, and Jeff will talk more about that, but that's received some state recognition. And then in athletics and band, we've had multiple ECC wins and other activities. We have state championships, ECC wins, and we can go through a whole list of those. And the way all of these things happen is that we have a great partnership between our community and our district. And that's what I want to highlight, is that our community and our district really work well together, and it's really important, and look forward to continuing that. I'm going to turn it over to Jeff, our superintendent, Jeff Newton, who's going to go through in more detail our budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bauman. Good evening. Good to see you all. We put some packets up on, so hopefully you all had a chance to grab that. If not, it looks like the slide deck that's right up there, and we'll go through what you see up there will be what's in that packet itself. Let me first start by thanking, again, our chairman of the board, Eric Bauman, for his commitment and the work that he's been doing with the board, and thank the entire Board of Education. We've got a dedicated board of really good people who are really focused on education and want to do the best for kids. They spent a lot of time this year going through the budget, making some reductions themselves, asking us a lot of questions, and us providing a lot of information and data. So I want to make sure that we acknowledge the fact and the hard work that they engaged in this year through the process and preparation for next year's budget. Also want to thank my team. Many of them are sitting here tonight. Our assistant superintendent, our director of student services, our facilities and IT director, and Mariana Stevens, our director of finance. You're not going to find a better finance director in the state of Connecticut. She does an amazing job. So thank you for all your work that you've all done this year. So make sure I didn't miss anybody as well. So we got everybody. All right. All right, let's jump into a couple slides that we want to go through. I want to provide you with a couple of different pieces of information. Chairman Bauman alluded to, some of the accolades and things that we have accomplished and are accomplishing because of the work we're doing. Wanted to show you some data sets and some score reports, as well as talk about a few other points. But let me first start just by this first slide of, if this will, there it goes. This quote has really kind of been following me, this year especially, relates to a lot of the work that we've been doing. Children can't be what they can't see. And that's so important as we continue to grapple with, tough budgets. It's our job as educators and school leaders and towns to provide our children every opportunity possible. And so this quote really stands out, to me in the fact that, we've got to make sure we're providing our students every opportunity to see opportunities that are out there, which are going to enlighten them to move on to jobs or careers that they might not know are possible. So just wanted to start with that quote. You've seen some of this information most likely before. We've gone over this at various meetings, but just a recap for our community and preliminary budget numbers. Numbers are in here as well as percents as to where we started from. On the left is where, when we rolled everything over, where our budget was. An 8.57 went up to an 8.69 between the two workshops, but then we made reductions. We reduced $1,196,057. Brought that down to what I brought to the Board of Education, which was a 6.79% increase over the current fiscal year, which reflects $67,528,793 of a budget. The Board of Ed then, as I mentioned just a minute ago, did quite a bit of work, reduced another $304,000 in change out of the budget, and brought it down to a 6.31% increase. So that's what the numbers in your book and the numbers that you have currently reflect. Now, since those books were put together, we have had some further reductions. Health insurance, we had put in a 15% increase for health insurance. As you probably are aware, and the state's aware, or the town is aware, because they're part of it too, we're all part of the state partnership plan for health insurance. We put in a 15% increase. Came back, we just found out more recently that it's going to be a 10.4% increase going into next year, which is really good news. Saves us $420,000. So that 6.31% increase really now reflects a 5.65% increase. And for our DIRG C, which we're in, the 5%, a little over 5% increase is what the average has been. So I just wanted to note that insurance was very helpful and very appreciated by the state. Would have I liked it to be lower? Absolutely, but 10.4% was better than what we expected. So 5.65. To break that down a little further with budget drivers, these are the core areas of drivers. They are each and every year. Benefits, salaries, contracted services, transportation, and tuition. I will note that benefits all the way to the right, if you look at the percent of the budget increase, that 36.14. Now with the lower insurance increase, that drops down to a 28.63%. So we left it as is because that's the Board of Ed's budget. But that's reflected if we go down, take that $420,000 out, that drops to a 28.63. Dropping the total major budget drivers at the bottom, the percent over to the far right, to a 95.31% rather than a 95.80. But these areas are always our core areas that we're focused on. Salaries is one of the biggest drivers. We have contractual obligations that we have to meet. Those are state law obligations that unions and bargaining groups have those contracts per state law, and we bargain in good faith. Some Board of Finance members were part of that process, and we come up with contracted agreements. We'll come back to some of that as necessary. Moving forward, fixed costs. We show this slide each and every year because, as I just mentioned, those contracted agreements are really fixed costs. Our salaries contracts with all of our bargaining groups, our transportation contract with busing, those all come around to add up to about 95.75% of the overall budget as fixed costs that are in place. And, we can't go simply just modifying those. So it leaves us with a small sliver of areas that we can look to reduce, as you can see in supplies, textbook, software, and equipment. This budget going into next year, I want to preface, is a budget that doesn't have any new initiatives in it, where we're looking for, additional staff or services or programs. In fact, to the right, we've already made reductions in staffing going into next year. So these have already been taken out of next year's budget. So we've already reduced 3 teaching positions, one at Lily B. Haynes and one at Flanders, which are both one-year only positions. We're trying to get creative with having one-year positions. As we look ahead at numbers and class sizes, we can predict and say, okay, it looks like we won't need a teacher in the following subsequent year, so we only hire a one-year position. So that staff, that teacher knows that they're going to be leaving at the end of the year. So we're not eliminating somebody's job. They already know ahead of time. So we've been trying to do more of those one-year hires, which has been helpful. We did reduce an additional teacher at Flanders going into next year. We've reduced a secretary from 1.0 down to 0.5 at Niantic Center. And we've also reduced at the high school, rather than hiring, we've got an open position for an assistant principal. Rather than being a 12-month, we feel that we can drop it down to a 10-month. So those have already been part of this budget, already been reductions that are already in place for next year. Per pupil expenditure, we'll get into kind of a little bit of data here. This slide is a representation of area districts. So those that are around us in our region. We're sitting, as you can see, you kind of look to the right, which is more, we always do use the previous year's data, but you can see kind of the comparison. We're sitting kind of in the middle as it pertains to how much money, the per pupil expenditure that we have as a district comparative to, to other districts around us. There's 17 districts total here. Show some accountability index data in a second, but those districts that are higher than us, they're spending more money, we're spending less, but for many of those, we have a higher, our growth and our achievement is at a higher rate than those. So we can kind of look at that on the next slide. So this is the accountability index. Let me give you actually a document to help you kind of understand what the accountability index, there's 12 measures. Just so you can understand the accountability. The state has created this this system, and this is like a holistic approach. Probably have a couple extra copies there. This is a holistic approach to looking at a district and the growth and achievement that they've made. If you look at those, what are the 12 indicators? I won't have you read through all this, but this is that holistic component of looking at academic achievement, academic growth, assessment participation rates, chronic absenteeism, post-secondary readiness, graduation rates, physical fitness, and art access, so access to special areas as well. So we took those area districts that I just showed you in the per pupil expenditure, put them up against accountability index comparative graph, and you can see that there's 5 districts that have a little bit of a higher accountability index, a holistic look, score-wise, than East Lyme does. The average is 75.9. We're well above the average. And Guilford, I'll show you this next slide, which you can really kind of see, but Guilford, out of those 5 districts that are higher than East Lyme, Guilford is the only one that has a lower per pupil expenditure. So this scatter plot is a great representation to be able to kind of look at where districts fall. So how much we're spending your per pupil expenditure up against your achievement and your growth. So you want to be on the scatter plot in that bottom right-hand corner is where the sweet spot is to sit, where you have a high accountability index and a lower per pupil expenditure. We're right on the cusp of that. So we're outperforming, other districts. Guilford being the only one, again, that has a higher accountability index and a lower per pupil expenditure. So we thought that was an important piece to, to share. And then if you look at DIRG information, you move forward and look at DIRG C. Here's 27 districts that are part of DIRG C. This is our district reference group. District reference group is made up of basically, so they look at a formula, it's like 7 indicators, look at a formula for socioeconomic status across towns. Many of these districts have varying sizes, which is interesting because one of the indicators is the district size, but some of these districts have a very small size, and some are only K6 or K8 as well. But if you look at this accountability index comparison, the 5 districts, RSD Regional School District 9, 17, Granby, Orange, and Lyme Old Lyme, they have a little bit of a higher accountability index, but only Granby and Orange have a lower per pupil expenditure. And all of these districts are much smaller than East Lyme. The highest one that's closest to us was Orange with 1,700 students. We're at almost 2,450 for students. And RSD 9 has 737 students, in the district. So much smaller districts have a higher accountability index score than us, but you can see all the districts behind us that are scoring at a lower rate. So what am I trying to say, I guess, is, we're doing well as the districts. And I think the dollars that we're spending, we're seeing the growth and achievement that we want to see. This scatter plot is just another representation too, just looking at those 27 districts. A little hard to see because they're very clustered, and that bottom right-hand quadrant is where you want to sit, but where East Lyme is, again, close to that line of right on the cusp of getting that quadrant, but only Granby and Orange have a higher achievement or accountability index score than we do. So just some data to kind of show, and we can get back and talk about those pieces as necessary. Another piece of data is comes from our State Summative Assessment. So this is the District Performance Index growth, 3-year trends. You can see, in ELA, math, and science. So this now is no longer a holistic approach. This is narrowing down and focusing on ELA, science, and math. You can see each of the last 3 years, we're continuing to make progress. We have one subgroup, which is our Hispanic population, where we saw a little bit of a dip. So that's an area we're going to be focusing on next year. But overall, you can see growth continues to occur across these three core areas over the last 3 years. So what we're doing is working. Let me finish, Barry, and we'll come back and answer questions afterwards, okay? Is that all right? Okay.
Just a question about the axis here, but we can do it later.
Yeah, let's do it later. We'll come back to them. All right, that way I can get through these. So again, we're outperforming the state averages across, or we're outperforming the state average in all three areas as well. Enrollment itself, too, versus certified staff. That question has come up often in discussions of, okay, well, if your total student count has gone down some, which it has. We have decreased some in enrollment. Is your certified staff kind of matching that? So this is state data, right from, we pull this directly from the state. Our numbers, again, have gone down. You can see on the slide where it says enrollment for 25-26, 2379. I just want to preface, that excludes preschool numbers, which we have 65 preschoolers, and it excludes AIM, our AIM program students, which are our 18 to 22-year-old students. And there's 11 students there. So it's not including those. But you can see, our certified staff count, has gone down as well. And for this year, the 264.6. And remember, we've already reduced some positions going into next year as well. So this speaks to the fact that, we are being cognizant as best we can of, our enrollment trends and making sure our staff counts are matching up with enrollment. Projected future enrollment. This is projected. So this slide we've used now for about 2 years, but you can see 25-26, the projected was 2497. All in, we're at 2445 right now is our total count. So pretty darn close to what has been projected for student enrollment. It's supposed to remain pretty plateaued as we look out to 2032, 2033, as you can see from that from that graph. Special education. Now, special education numbers have in fact gone up. So that trend, and that trend across the state, as you can see, the state is the gray bars, has gone up over the last number of years, that prevalence rate. So if you don't know how you get your prevalence rate, you use the number of total special education students against your total population. It gives you your percentage, which we're at 20.8% currently. And then if you looked at those numbers, you can see, as I just said, over the years, that count of identified students that require individualized services is up to 478 as of this current year, 25-26. But our staffing, the paraeducators are the gray bars, pretty much maintained fairly level numbers, and then the certified special education team or pool is the red bars. It's gone up, trickled up a little bit, but again, special education numbers have gone up. There's costs associated with that as well. I mean, we have more students outplaced. Part of our budget is reflecting a higher contracted service and tuition amount, and that's because of students that are identified under special education. But it's our job to make sure that we're doing everything we can to support those students, and we do. But we've had students that have moved into district that that were required to have outplacements, and that was more recent. So that's a cost is brought right on to us as a as a district. And if they move to another district, then the cost goes to that other district. So it's a back and forth in a way. Cost mitigation efforts. Just a couple of slides we want to just go through fairly quickly. We're doing a lot of shared services and trying to make every attempt possible to save money where we can. And that goes with shared services, number one, first and foremost, with Salem. We are currently overseeing Salem's security with our security director, overseeing Salem Food Services with our director, and overseeing Salem's facilities and maintenance, with our director. So Dr. Lund, who's here, who's our IT and facilities director, maintenance director, oversees, Salem. So Salem pays us, for those services. So it's a win-win. Salem is getting top quality individuals that are overseeing, but we're also, providing a service to them. Other cost mitigations, shared, utilities and electric with the town, financial software, the Munis package is shared. We're working a lot with other districts as much as we can. Waterford on one side and Lyme Old Lyme on the other. We have a shared nursing supervisor with Waterford, splitting the cost. Our EMT and our automotive course shared between Waterford and Lyme Old Lyme, saving us money. Let me give you an example. I could be sitting here tonight asking for dollars to further equip our automotive area in our high school, which we really don't have much of one at all. Ask for dollars, so we want a car lift and we want to add this and that. I'm not doing that because we're able to send students over to Waterford and down to Furman's Garage in town, where we have collaborative partnerships where kids are getting those experiences at no cost. So it's a win-win for the work that we've done there. And then more of those opportunities, when it comes to pathways, this is the work that we've really been recognized across the state for. And I want to share a little bit of that information because it's extremely important. And it's great for kids. And this goes back to, kids can't be what they can't see. We currently have close to 200 students engaging our pathways programming. That's high school down. 4 seniors were hired by Electric Boat the end of last year for welding, design, carpentry, and electrical. You might have just read in the paper. I just saw before I came here, I was looking at the day, they're going to be looking, EB is going to be looking for 8,000 jobs, coming up. Those are a lot of some of our kids that are going to be looking for those positions. We have great connections, with EB. We've had 93 guest speakers, trainers, and volunteers that have visited. Those are volunteers. We're not paying for any of that. That are helping, giving our kids experiences. We've exceeded over $250,000 in donations and grants and program supports over the last few years for Pathways, including an ambulance donated to us, which we have on campus now at the high school, which is part of our EMT program. A hospital bed for $10,000 donated. So a lot of work and effort is going into reaching out to secure free items that are free or donations or whatever it might be to offset costs. And then grant writing occurs as well. Perkins Grant, Workforce Community Partners Grant, state's the dual credit and enrollment grant. And I just want to highlight too, East Lyme, Waterford, we were just up at the state Board of Education meeting doing a presentation to them on the work and the collaboration that we have in place now, where we're sharing students across the two high schools. Some Waterford students are coming to us for our EMT program, as are Lyme students. Some of our students, as I just mentioned, are going to Waterford for their automotive program because they have the car lift, they have those items. Again, a win-win, where kids are getting experiences and we're partnering together. The state actually just reached out today, and they want to send state board members down to see our programs. So trying to look at our model as a model for the rest of the state, for high schools. We've done over 7 different presentations around the state on our Pathways work. A lot of really good things are happening, for kids at our high school, and it's showing. And we're proud of the work that we're engaging in. Just a smattering of, some of our partners. We have many more than this, but we want to just highlight a couple that, we are working with. I will give another shout out to Furman's Garage publicly, because they have really been a win-win partner in this for a few years now. Tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m., I'm going to go down and visit, because I haven't been in a little while. We've got the early bird automotive class going on there. So, our kids are going to Furman's Garage using their tools and equipment and learning mechanics, and then they come back to the high school. So just an outstanding program and collaborative partner. And that's it. I'll end with, our quote again, that, children can't be, what they can't see. So we're working very hard to provide opportunities for kids. So with that, happy to open up and have some conversation and go from there.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
I think what we'll do for order tonight is, since Scott is connecting by Zoom tonight and he's got a limited time frame, we'll have Scott go first with the questions and then we'll go across. Scott, are you there?
I am there. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Rich, for managing the meetings tonight, since I can't be there. So Jeff, Eric, thank you both for being here tonight at the meeting, and thank you all for the work that went into this proposal. I want to start by acknowledging something that I think everyone in the room agrees on. The East Lyme Board of Ed carries the largest, or certainly one of the largest responsibilities in our town's budget. The work you guys do for our students really matters deeply for our community. Some of the highlights you just made, Jeff, in your speech to us and to anybody watching at home, I think certainly spotlights the great work you all have done on behalf of our students, and we all thank you. At the same time, I think we have to ground our discussion tonight in fiscal reality. Last year, even with reductions that we made, the town still required an increase in our mill rate, and that was difficult for many residents to handle, particularly those on fixed incomes. And I want to thank also the citizen who was here tonight speaking. I really appreciate hearing your voice. That increase in mill rate is not an abstract concern. It's a real growing pressure in East Lyme. So as we look at your request for this year, I think we're seeing a combination of factors. We're seeing relatively small class sizes across the district. We're seeing largely fixed contractual salary structures. And we're seeing a pretty significant increase in healthcare costs, the 10.4% that you highlighted, Jeff. Taken all together, collectively, that tells us we're not just dealing with inflation, we're dealing with a structural cost alignment. So the task I see before us here at the Board of Finance tonight is not simply to review and ask questions about your 5.65% proposed increase. Our task is to understand how your budget aligns with current enrollment, what flexibility exists that I haven't heard you talk about yet, and what trade-offs you've already seriously evaluated. So we're going to be asking a few questions to better understand your priorities, your assumptions, and what our options are at the Board of Finance. Our goal, as you all well know, is to arrive at a budget that supports students while also being sustainable for taxpayers over time. So my first question, I'll kick this off for you, Jeff, is that 5.65% increase is, I heard your justifications, and I appreciate that it's something that a lot of people have deliberated for a while about. But if we were at the Board of Finance to reduce the increase from last year's budget, if we were to reduce it to just 3%, can you guys identify what 3 priorities you would fully protect? And maybe what 3 areas where reductions could occur with the least impact on student outcomes? That's my first question. I've got one more after that.
So, Scott, just to be clear, so you're saying to get it down to a 3% increase rather than what is now roughly a 5.65% increase?
Right. If that's a number that we at the Board of Finance arrived at, and I haven't talked in great detail with all of the members of our board to know if that's the number that is in anybody's head yet. But if that were our metric, can you identify the top 3 priorities you would like to fully protect, and also some areas where you think reductions could occur with the least impact on student outcomes?
Well, let me start by saying the Board of Ed has adopted a budget that they feel protects those student outcomes, sort of thing. You're talking, was it 1,300,000 or you're talking $1.6 million reduction. That you're talking multiple layoffs of staff members, which are going to have a devastating effect on our school system, to be honest. So I don't even know how to prioritize that, Scott, and what, big dollars are in staffing. So, that's the only place that reductions could be. This is not we don't have a fluff budget here at all. It's, every dollar is allocated for, and it comes down to, what we have to support our kids and the staffing that we have to support our kids. I'd have to think about that, Scott, to see, I wouldn't even know where to begin, to be honest, with that low of a percentage. If you to ask me of, a couple $100,000, I might be able to look there, but you're talking $1.6 million.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't. If anybody else has any thoughts on that from the Board of Ed, or
All right, so I will send you the question electronically, and I would appreciate whatever thoughtful response you guys can come up with. So then maybe let me switch to a more specific question about average class sizes. Can you sort of elaborate about high school, elementary school class sizes? I know that it's a different model in the middle school, but it's been our understanding that they are quite low, and that you have very few classes, I think, that have even close to 20 students, if I'm not wrong.
well,
Can you walk us through? Can you walk us through what you consider the optimal class size range for good educational outcomes?
Yeah,
And how
let me-
far below that threshold maybe we are right now?
Let me just publicly state, we don't think they're low. We have guidelines. So let me start with for the middle school first off. The middle school is all sitting in the 20 range. The classrooms are only so big; they can fit around 24 to 25 students. They're sitting at that 22 to 24 range going into next year, are right in that sweet spot of where they can be. They were fairly high this year. We had requests from teachers to add, another teacher. We didn't do so. We kept it where it was. So middle school is right in that sweet spot. At the elementary level, the Board of Ed has guidelines. So K to 2, the top end is 18 students in a class. And this is very consistent with other area districts, if you were to look around. I mean, we're nowhere out of the ballpark with this. K to 2, 18 students, and then 3-4 goes up to 20. Those are the guidelines at the elementary level that the Board of Ed tries to stay, within. Have we gone a little bit above that at times? We have. Have we been below? We have. But it becomes a problem, when you have 2 or 3 teachers at a grade level. Take, for instance, 2 teachers at a grade level. it's very hard to go up or down, either reducing or adding a teacher because the numbers swing crazy one way or the other, if that makes sense. So hence that's why we're looking at some redistricting and potential reorganization to balance those class sizes out better, to have a better handle on that. And at the high school, we cut 4 positions at the high school last year. There's a dip, there's a bubble that's up there right now. So optimal class sizes, again, sit at around that, that 20 to 24 range. Some are higher, some are lower. There's a wide range of of class sizes that are occurring based on a number of different scenarios, where it becomes students that have special education needs, a class with more higher level needs, to our upper end classes of advanced plus whatever it might be. So it varies greatly, I guess. But we try and find an average. Board of Ed has done a good job. We've been looking at that more closely. Hence, we had some reductions last year, and we will continue to look at that as well. So, Scott, that helps with those levels.
Yeah, thanks for that context. I may have a couple more questions later, but I want to turn it back over to Rich to have questions for those who are actually in the room tonight.
Okay, thank you, Scott. And if you feel like time's running out for you, just feel free to jump in. Lauren, we'll go down to that end.
Great. So my first question was, and I think I appreciate seeing that we're working to share services and mitigation efforts. I think even since I've been sitting on the board, I've seen more of that over the past couple of years. And I'm wondering if it's been explored sharing even more services with Salem, whether that be, I don't know if it's even feasible, regionalization of administrative individuals, and is their enrollment down as well? I'm just interested in if there's more opportunity in that relationship.
We continue to try and look at different options, yes, to answer your question, especially with classes. We have a meeting in May with Waterford and Lyme to see what other course offerings can we continue to share, potentially to again provide opportunities, but it means us not having to to go hire another staff member as well. We talk the administrative component with Salem. Very challenging for us to give up any administrative time with where our administrative numbers are, and I'm happy to provide you with a document that has all the administrative counts across area school districts. You'd probably be interested because I know this question has come up. We're on the lower end of our total administrative count, as you can see from this graph. So East Lyme is all the way to the left, and you can see our, this is a snapshot of the count of our students, right around the number that I had just mentioned. This is all right from state data as well. What's not included for these districts, and I want to be clear, what's not included is the Director of Security, which is not a certified position, and our Director of Food Services. Those are 2 non-certified positions. So that's not accounted for in these district administrative counts. So if you look across, you can see East Lyme is at 16.5 total administrators. And you can just do the math and look at the numbers. Some districts are higher in total population of students, but the closest one to us, or the only one that is less than us, with closest to our student count, is Rocky Hill at 16. Almost every other district, look at those numbers, has more administrative capacity, more administrative support than we do. And we just reduced a 12-month assistant principal to a 10-month assistant principal. So not to kind of go off of your question, Lauren, but just to kind of, we've collected this data. We've taken a hard look at, at everywhere. So we're right where we need to be administratively for our numbers.
And then another question I had was, it's exciting to see that we've obtained grants for a lot of the student opportunities and community connections. Do we have a system in place to look for grants in other areas as well to kind of offset some of the increases in costs?
Not a specific grant writer. I know there's been talk about, grant writers and sharing with the town. No, that's not. It would be an additional cost to have, that person. So, not to say that, that's something we wouldn't be interested in, but you have to have somebody then that's sustaining those grants. And once you get the money, keep the money, and there's just a whole process that goes along with that as well. We have our part-time pathways coordinator right now that's doing a lot of that work. He's the one that's been really helping us to obtain, those dollars.
And another question I had was, I saw that Niantic Center, their budget comparatively to other schools went down. I'm just wondering, I know it's hard to compare all the different schools. Is there lessons learned there? Is there something that, is there a reason for that we can kind of apply to other?
It probably went down because of staffing. Yeah, I think we had some movement in staffing. We had a retiree that was a top-end teacher, and in movements, a teacher that's at the lower end of the salary scale is be moving over. So that's one piece. I don't know, Mary, if there's the secretary. We reduced the secretary position from 1.0 down to part-time.
The repairs and maintenance budget for Niantic Center is lower than some of the other schools as well, just based on, I think, the need for the various schools. Yeah, so that's, they requested less in their instructional supplies. At times, they have, they might have more than they need, so they just don't request. So theirs is a little less. And they're just, overall a smaller school too than the other two schools. So, especially the meetings, it's quite a bit larger. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
Thank you.
the bulk of it. Yeah.
You all set, Lauren, or do you have
Yes,
another?
I may have a few more, but I will defer to other board
Oh,
members.
okay. Kim, would you like to go next, please?
Sure, thank you. So I'd like to start my comments and questions using section 3 on the handout, which is the summary by object code, if that's
Yes.
okay. And I have to admit, I am a first-time Board of Finance member, so some of my questions may be very basic, but I just want to make sure I understand everything. So my first question would be object code 51170, safety personnel. That's an increase of $97,000. I think everyone agrees that the safety of our children in schools is paramount, but I'd really like to understand, is that an additional FTE? Because we've heard where you've cut. I'm trying to identify where you might have added FTEs.
Yeah, that is part of the armed security process that we're moving towards. We just had a big forum about arming our security staff members with the community. So that's part of that budgeted dollar. That's why you're seeing an increase there with arming. So we would have armed security staff members across our district. Their hourly rates would need to go up as part of that process.
Okay, so that's not a net new FTE, that's increase due to armed.
Nope, there is one. If you look down and you read safety personnel salary increases due to, it is the addition to of a full-time.
Full-time?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, as part of that whole process that we're engaging in.
And so that has
combination.
not officially been approved, but it's one of the recommendations that's coming through the Board of Ed?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so I think that's important to note, that that's in the budget that has not been approved yet. Fair?
Well, what's been adopted by the Board of Education, yeah, that what sits in front of you.
Okay. And then if we could go to object code 52905, retirement severance. What exactly is retirement severance?
come on, we can check with you.
Hi. The retirement severance is in our teacher's contract, our administrator contract, and our secretary and custodian contract. They've been what I'll call grandfathered out. So people hired after certain dates, like the teachers is June of 2013, are no longer eligible, but we still have people. So in all of the contracts, that has been grandfathered out, but we still have people that when they retire or leave, they are entitled to a payout of their sick pay. And so that, yep, and so that represents payments for teachers that notified us that they were retiring, or, you know, a custodian or a secretary.
And that's part of the collective bargaining unit? And
Correct.
that was agreed upon? Okay.
Correct.
All right, thank you for that. I'd like to go to Object Code 53590, substitute services, for a total of $675,000. Does it really cost that much for substitute services? And what can we do to ensure more people are coming to work and requiring less substitutes? No, I'm really serious about that. That is a lot of money to pay for substitutes.
So I can answer that, yes.
Yes,
In
please.
fact, it does cost that much. I'm projecting this year. Last year, it was about $650,000. This year, I'm projecting it to be at about $671,000.
And so is
And that's
this,
it's through Kelly Services. So that's where our substitutes, other than long-term subs, our substitutes are through Kelly Services.
okay, and is this largely Connecticut sick leave? Is this family medical leave? Is it interim family medical leave? Like, do you have any statistics? Like, help us understand what's the
Sure.
operational issues that are driving $675,000, and what are you doing to course correct that, I think, more importantly?
So I can't tell you the percentage of, because this is mainly paraprofessionals and teachers. So obviously our substitutes for custodians are not through Kelly Services. We have, what was the FMLA count? Right now, I think.
50 individuals?
I think maybe
that are,
even higher.
50?
50,
50.
if not higher,
Yeah.
that are out on FMLA. So they have, you know, they obviously, and now with the state of Connecticut has implemented their
Sick leave, yeah.
leave as well. It does not apply to our certified staff, but it does apply to non-certified staff. So sometimes that gets extended, or something that's not eligible, a leave that's not eligible for federal medical leave is eligible under Connecticut. I can certainly look at percentages for you. I just don't have that right now.
Okay, so I guess I would just ask, because that is a large amount, and that is a complex situation, but it is also the responsibility of management and leadership to actively address that I'm just publicly encouraging the Board of Ed to work with the school leadership to reduce that. This is a leadership issue. This needs action from where I sit and from my experience.
Well, this is
Right.
a statewide issue as well,
Oh, I
where we
don't
have
doubt it,
teachers
but-
that, you know, are burned out. We have administrators that are burned out. Teaching is a tough job these days. We're seeing more individuals that are taking and using more time that they have accrued. To course correct that, you know, you have to maintain class sizes, and you have to give them the supplies and the materials and the things that they can do their job successfully with. Going the opposite direction, and a 3% budget is going to kill that, and you're going to see a higher substitute need from there. I can assure you of that.
Very well. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
no problem.
So, okay, so I'd like to now go to object codes 54360 and 54370. These are your repairs and maintenance and projects. Pretty big numbers there, right? $500,000. Any of this capital, like meets capital definition versus routine operations? Because there is a difference between this, and we've had this discussion at finance about things that should be capitalized versus things that are routine repair and maintenance.
Yeah, we use that threshold of the 25,000. So these are general multiple repairs and items that are under that, that $25,000 threshold. Capital is $25,000 or more is kind of how we look at that. So, we've got over 700,000 square feet of building space. There's a lot of repairs and a lot of maintenance that goes into, aging buildings as well, our high school being probably the biggest one.
Okay. I would like to now go to object code 54430, copy cost, $215,000 for managing print, paper, copiers, printers. Do you have a print management strategy? Because that is a very large number for an age when we should be dealing with electronic documents largely. I receive a few things at home that are printed and mailed to me by the school, but what are $215,000 for paper and copiers? What's
Yeah.
the plan?
Well, we've had a plan in place. That's you fob into every copy machine. Every staff member has to fob in to release their documents. If they don't go get it within 24 hours, it disappears. Because years back, things would happen where somebody would hit print, they'd have to travel all the way down the end of the hallway to pick up the document. Well, sometimes they'd forget about it or not do it, that sort of thing. So things disappear now and they have to go do it again. So that's one of our biggest strategies. It is a big number, but with the number of staff, we're not just all electronic. A lot of our work is through the device and computers, but there's still printing that does occur for various programs, grade levels, class sizes, etc.
Okay. And then could you talk a little bit about transportation, 55100, 55109? Those costs are $2.7 million. It's one of the most obviously expensive line items in the budget. And could you maybe just talk about what you've done to reduce those costs, because right now they're at a 10.4% increase and a 28.5% increase.
Yeah, well, there's two things with that. One is our regular transportation, and the second is special education cost transportation. So first with let me hit the special ed one first. Special education, this is where I mentioned earlier, we have students that are outplaced. It's our requirement under the law to transport those students. So one student could be $50,000 for transport for the year. That number has gone up in the number of students that we have outplaced. Again, I mentioned there was 3 that moved into district recently. Now, next year, we could have 4 move out and lower that, that cost. So that's the special education piece and why that's gone up. Regular transportation, we just signed, we're in the first year of a new 5-year agreement with First Student, our transportation company. 7.55% of an increase each year over the next 5 years. Bus companies, you've probably seen on the news, they can't find drivers. They're having to pay their drivers more. So their increase is higher than what we've had in the past. We were sitting around 5% previously, in the years previously. Now it's at a 7.55% each year. In looking at it, though, what we pay for our busing each day in comparisons, we're doing pretty well compared to a lot of other districts, so we did pretty well with that contract. But that's an increased cost.
So could I ask, do you have data on the number of students per bus, meaning like the utilizations by seat? Because we have very large buses running around town, and it appears, as a parent, not very many seats filled. So how do we know that we've kind of right-sized the bus size for the routes for our students?
So 2 things. Yeah, we have rideshare information that we've been in the process of collecting. The other important piece is, by law, you have to make sure that a bus is available, for every student. So a handful of students get driven to school every day. But that could happen for the first 3 months of the school year, and we never see that student at the bus stop or a group of students at the bus stop. All of a sudden, their car breaks down. They now come to the bus stop. We need to make sure that those students are being picked up by law. That's our obligation. So, there's been conversations about the fact that, well, how about we consolidate bus stops and this and that, or cut buses? But that number can fluctuate and can always change. Where, again, our obligation, we need to talk to legislators about changing that so we could get parents to agree and say, I'm never going to use the bus no matter what, sort of thing. I'm signing my name here, and that would help give us more, more real data. But at this point, it's our job under the law that we have to do that.
Okay. I'd like to go to 55600 tuition with an increase of 273,000.
Special education. Yeah, it's basically you want to.
It's additional.
Yeah, this is the additional special education students that have come
Special
on board. Yeah.
education, okay.
Yes. Yeah, out of district placements.
Special ed,
Yeah,
okay.
that reflects those costs.
Oh, the whole line, so it doesn't.
And it's
include-
magnet,
It doesn't include magnet.
Yeah, magnet school,
Oh,
VOAG,
magnet
yeah,
school.
it's all combined together. But the bulk of the increase is because of.
So are students going elsewhere? Magnet, special ed,
Correct.
special academy?
Correct,
Okay.
but the bulk of it is that cost for specialized programs and schools that we need to send students that are identified to because we can't service them
Okay.
in district.
I know everyone's exhausted by my questions, but last one,
No,
56110, instructional supplies, an increase of $188,000.
Yeah, that's that sliver of, yeah, come on, let's just kind of break that down, because I know it's a,
Yeah, so if you look down at in my note, what I tried to do is in the past, I'm trying to classify items in the budget so that they are properly reflected. In the past, things were being charged to equipment or like textbooks, but they were really consumable supplies. So if you you're looking at the 188 in instructional supplies increase, but if you go down to textbooks, you're going to see a decrease of 86,367, 56410. If you go down to page 4, 57310, instructional equipment, that's down 108,341 because a lot of that was reclassified to instructional supplies. Our athletic department was budgeting in equipment for what really should have been supplies, not equipment. So I reclassified that in instructional supplies. There was, and Liz can explain a little bit, there was a small increase at the middle school for some, for social studies and math for some curriculum supplies, but the bulk of the reason is just the reclassifications from those two accounts.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have right now.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Thank you, Jeff. And, let's see, Sandra, do you want
I'll
to?
defer to you. Go ahead.
Sandra?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm new to the Board of Finance, and I'm taking this all in.
it's a lot.
It's a lot. And your answers, you have answers, good answers for everything, and everything has been put together. I'm just very uncomfortable with the bottom line and our taxpayers, myself included. That's all I have.
Thank you, Sandy, understandable.
Okay, Barry.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Compliments Jeff and Board of Ed for pulling together all these numbers and information in a very understandable format. It's a lot of work to you and your staff in doing this, and it's appreciated.
Yeah, thanks, Barry.
It helps us in our budget oversight. Following up on what Kim's was worked down through the object codes, I had a question on object code 54420, acquisition plan payments. I noticed that you've taken 90,000 and you put it over to the town's capital plan, and you kept 260,000. And so the question is, why wasn't the full 260,000 moved over to the capital plan?
Hi, Barry. So the remaining 260, I'm sorry, Jeff. In previous years, the town we can't go out and bond or do long-term financing. So as part of the process prior to even me starting at the Board of Ed, we would put in an amount for typically all of our technology, and then the town, along with other items, would put in, would do a lease, what I'll call a lease or lease purchase for our equipment, for cars, etc. When Kevin came on board, Kevin, was it a couple of years ago, he wanted to get away from that. So, and then when we would just pay the town back. So it would come out of our budget. So if the lease payment for our stuff was $100,000, then we would, the town would charge us $100,000 to our budget. We have done away with that, but these payments, as the old leases come off, that's what you're seeing is that reduction. But we still owe, in essence, for, I think it's two more of those lease purchases. So eventually these will go away entirely because everything now is being put into the capital plan. That's that $500,000 for those of you that were on the capital committee, that's sitting in there. That's what that is. So we can't move that to the town because it's still old lease purchase items.
And what are those two lease payments?
Pardon me?
What are the two remaining lease payments?
I can go take a look and
Okay,
tell you in
that's-
about a
You
second.
can get back to me later.
Yeah, well,
Okay,
I have
thank
it
you.
right there. Yep.
I probably can look in like the capital improvement things and find information on that.
I don't know that it's, I
I
don't
know
know
it
that
all
it's
comes
in
down
there.
to Kevin's fault.
I like that, I like that. But I have those two payments there. I think there's two more left. One is 106,000 and one might be 150. But I will get that for you.
Good. I have just like 3 or 4 more questions. First, as I looked at this overall budget, the context, I said I went back to 2020, fiscal year 20, and from fiscal year 20 to 27, there's been about a 36% increase in your budget, which is, it's pretty good. I mean, it's exceeded the rate of inflation, and it suggests to me that the town has supported education very, very well, for the past 5 or 6 fiscal years. And we're now coming into a year that's really, really tough with the town budget. And that's kind of the context that I'm coming at this thing. So we've supported you well, and we're now really in a very strict, tight budget year, and that's source of some of my questions. One thing I was going through, when we're coming up the town charter, talks about evidence of accountability for effectiveness, in town governance. And so I was looking through as much as I could on the Board of Ed website to find evidence of the effectiveness of your educational activities.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you, it was hard to really find, but with some sleuthing and work, I found back in 2020 there was a Board of Education document outlining school improvement projects. This was an excellent document.
Okay.
And just to quote from some of it, for what it basically did is a school by school, it gave an outline for how, given the $65 million that the town was giving to this Board of Education and the schools, that this is a very careful plan that says, when you give us this money, here's what we're going to do to improve. And for one of the elementary schools listed, it said by June 2022, 75% of East Line Public School elementary school students currently in the approaching ELA achievement standard band will move to the meeting or exceeding achievement standard band. And I think every one of the performance indicators were something like that. Now, if we could have a budget that said, you give us $67 million, in return, we will have a school improvement plan in place for the town that would show that here are the types of specific achievements and performance improvements that we're going to have. That would be a great supplement, a great addition to your budget down the road. And I'm just wondering if you have anything like that in your current plans that I missed, or to that level of specificity.
Yeah, I think we've really tried to stay focused on kind of some of the documents that we had shared and showed in relation to that, the accountability component, our DPI, really breaking down, and EdSite, I don't know if you've been on EdSite.
Right, yeah, I've been-
Yeah,
I'll-
it's
I'll
really
get to that in a
growing
minute.
in you know.
Those are very global ones, but they aren't on the only thing I liked about the school
2020
performance
document?
improvement plan.
I'll go back and look at that,
You know,
yeah.
they're very, very specific to each school,
Okay,
you know.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have them right now in place, you know, as a request, thinking forward to the budget next year, could you implement school improvement plans as part of your overall budget process?
and we have district and school improvement plans, but let me go back and look at that 2020 document, because maybe we've veered off a different direction for multiple reasons, but maybe we can take a look and see if there's some things we can get back to with that.
Okay, so again, that's a great document, and if that could be a blueprint for how you work on your budget, and when you come to the town, you say, you know, we want $67 million, and here's are the specific school-by-school improvements that are going to happen.
That are going to happen because of that, okay. Yeah, thanks for that.
All right, you just mentioned the performance index on your slide page 13. I was going to ask you a question about that chart. As I understand it, the ceiling for that chart is 100. That scale goes from 0 to 100, not 0 to 75 as the chart indicates.
Yes, that's
It goes 0 to 100.
Yes.
Okay,
the
so,
top is 100.
okay, so, all right. And it confused me when I saw 75 as the
Yeah,
ceiling.
it was really just because some of those increases are very incremental. It was just to show the increments with the end above the bar.
Okay.
But yes, you're right. It does go
Okay.
100.
And that, I know that also one of the critiques of the performance indicator that came through was that basically if you think of an exam, that a 70 is really kind of a C on a 100-point scale. You know, so while you're basically bragging about a 70, you know, it's like, okay, and the overall, the full scale, we're talking about a C. And for that reason, many of the schools have dropped back into the use of the growth index. And on the sheet that you passed out on the accountability sheet,
Yep.
you actually can see that on the first column under that, it highlights that the focus on student growth is actually a more precise measure of what's happening in terms of school achievement. So, you know, I'm looking at that, and I looked at the EdSite, and what it's showing is that for this past year, I think that for the district, the English language achievement showing that it's about, and the growth index is sometimes referred to as 1 year of growth for 1 year of education. And that's why the top of that, the target on the growth index is 100%, so that we should get every student with 100% growth for 1 year of education. And unlike the performance index, which is kind of just it's a measure on a test, the growth index is normed using the standard error of the measure on each individual student. So it's basically normed each student. So it's like, how are you doing against yourself? And for the district, you know, we're showing a growth index of, for English language and arts, about 50%, and for math, about 56%. And that contrasts greatly on that same chart. The educational Every Student Succeeds Act sets milestones for the district, and the milestones it set for East Lyme were for 90% for ELA and 91% for math. Now, I wonder if you have any information that you could give us as a Board of Finance to show what plans you have in place to bring the student achievement up in line with Every Student Succeeds Act, which is really a measure between 50% to 90%.
Well, anything specific you want to mention, but
I can talk a little bit about our,
at least our assistant superintendent is in charge of instruction, assessment, and curriculum.
yeah, so hi everybody. This year, I'm glad that you brought that up, Barry, because we're taking a really close look at our MTSS process, our multi-tiered system of support. So we have our instruction that happens at we call the core, and then we have tier 2 and tier 3 interventions that students go through when they're not meeting their growth. And so we're working with the American Institute of Research. We have someone in district right now who's looking at our MTSS structure in our systems of supports so that we can strengthen that, which ultimately, if we can get a more consistent process across all of our 5 buildings with very specific action plan associated with our students that are research-based, that will support that growth metric that you're talking about.
Do you have a specific, I mean, those are all great inputs, but like, do you kind of have something in place to say, right now, we're in 50% on the growth index. By this time next year, we want to be at X percent in terms of reducing that gap with the Every Student Succeeds Act milestone?
So what I'm looking at most closely is our subgroup data, because that's really where our students are not making the growth that they need to. So we have been looking at our ML students, some groups of students of colors. As Jeff mentioned, our Hispanic students is a group that's not making that growth. So those are the subgroups that we're looking most closely at right now. Our students with disabilities are another subgroup that we're looking closely at because they are achieving at a lower rate compared to all of our students on average.
It's interesting because many other districts that you mentioned students of color, because they tend to be performing on the performance index in the lowest quartile, their growth percentage tends to be the easiest to make. So in many other districts, we're saying that those students in the 4th lower quartiles are actually those that are showing the greatest gains on the performance index. And you're saying that that's not happening here.
No, I'm not saying that's not happening here. You know, and that's part of the reason why we're looking at MTSS and for all students. But those are just, you asked me areas that we are looking more closely at. Those are the subgroups that we've been taking a closer look at.
And I would just appreciate, I mean, if you can kind of come into that and come back to us with
Sure.
What is your specific target for improving the district-wide performance on the growth index? You know, just, you know, give us a number to show the difference between what's actually happening and the Every Student Succeeds Act milestone.
Sure. Happy to do that.
Just a couple other questions. Back to the account 53220, and I'm going up, the letter that you sent us said, you know, that you were focused on financial stewardship and making sure that resources are allocated strategically and efficiently. I was trying to go through the report to see, you know, where that was happening, and on the account 53220, which is instructional improvement, that's also could be called professional development. And I also know from the research that it's really tough to find a relationship between expenditures on professional development and gains in student achievement.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering how, for the $120,000 you have there, if you could just give us some indication of your the assessment process that you're using to assure that expenditure is actually leading into improvements in student achievement.
Well, let me first start with the fact that, you know, we have worked very hard in professional development to try and use, you know, our internal resources, you know, first.
Mm-hmm.
So to keep this number at a lower amount versus, you know, spending more for folks to come in and paying for those folks, you know, to come in. So, for example, just recently we had a whole, what we call Ed Camp, where teachers are leading professional development throughout the entire day. It's a professional development day. There's no cost for that. You know, teachers are leading it. Our coaches are another great example, and the success that we've had with, you know, with our coaches. They're doing a lot of that professional development for, you know, for our teachers. As for, you know, I don't have the breakdown, Barry, in front of me as to what this amount, you know, equates to, unless we have that listed somewhere for the professional development services at this cost, but
It's not so much the figure, it's that, you know, the
that we're measuring.
evidence of your monitoring to see its effectiveness.
Yeah.
And so what's the link between doing this and related gains in student achievement?
Yeah, we'd have to, I
mean, one example would be working with with AIR on redoing our MTSS systems, that we would see a direct result on student achievement.
If you just, you know, give us some examples of what you're seeing as the direct evidence of the improvement on that. So another question I have is also on account 58100, which is linked dues and fees. And these are payments you're paying to, like, professional organizations. And what I'm doing is going through the budget to see, where there are potential areas for cost savings and reductions, that are outside of reductions in staff. And so I'm just wondering, what kind of information do you have that the link between the money spent on this account and student performance and achievement?
I'd have to go back, Barry, and take a look at,
Okay, so
those
if you could do that and give us that information,
yeah, and see
that'd
what.
be very helpful.
Yep.
In your letter to us, you also said that you had evidence of success beyond graduation, and I'm wondering if you do any follow-up surveys with students. I know other districts do surveys like 2 years after graduation, they'll send out a simple form. Are you in a position that is of your choice 2 years after graduation from high school? Do you have any follow-up data with your graduates?
We're working with, we have an alumni list that we have established, so we're in the process of getting into those things, to gather some of that feedback. Yep. Especially through our pathways work. That's one of our Board of Ed goals, actually, to collect some alumni feedback.
And my last question was I've been very concerned with kind of a figure ground shift on all this budget work we're doing. That most of the budget presentations are on what's happening to the department. What's happening right now, the figure that we're focusing on is the Board of Education of the schools. And, as we had the opening, I'm trying to bring the figure of the taxpayer. What is happening to the taxpayer as a result of our budget? And I did some calculations looking at, if I took the median taxpayer in East Lyme and looked at their tax increases this year, the Board of Ed they're paying the Board of Ed a check of about $6,500. And the increase in the budget is another $500 onto that. So I'm just, mulling my mind. What would happen if you walked up to this median, this household that has a median tax of about $7,000 that they're paying to the Board of Ed, and you knocked on the door and say, "Hi, would you give me a check for $7,000 to support the Board of Education?" And if they came back to you and said, "What are we getting for that?" what would you say to them?
I would say that you're getting a quality, top-notch education, and that has a holistic approach, providing that we produce a well-rounded student. We offer multiple opportunities, more so than other districts, and we're fiscally responsible in working, as I said, to branch out.
Can you give any
districts in
specifics?
partnership. Well, I think I would break those down very probably further, maybe if asked.
So if you could help us out on that to say, can you send us some things that you would give specifically, instead of generalities, here's specifically what's happening.
The documents that we share too in the PowerPoint, I would slide those right over. Here's your ROI. Here's the return on investment that you're getting, and where East Lyme Public Schools stand, as a district, as a school, or as individual schools, and how well our students are doing.
Okay.
Those are the documents I would share.
All right. I just want to let you, that's kind of like the perspective that we're taking, what's happening to the taxpayer with this.
Sure.
And it's a major hit. It's a major hit to the taxpayer.
Well, I think all in all, the total budget, town budget and Board of Ed budget is, is high.
And the majority of it is coming from the Board of Ed.
Well, town budget's higher though, and we'll put that out there, so.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You want that information, Barry, from,
Yes.
that you asked earlier?
So Barry, next year, there's 3 payments. One is $109,000, one is $105,000, and then the other one is about total of $45,000. And then June 30, the 27-28 budget is the last payment for $109,740, and then you'll see that line go away.
Okay. Thank you very much.
What was that for? Those are the acquisition plan.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, the outstanding leases that weren't rolled into capital, that were grandfathered into this budget. Scott, are you still there? No. Oh, okay. So thank you for all the questions and all the answers. I've just got a few questions that I don't think have been touched on. We hear about the increase in the number of out-of-town placements for our special education requirements. And I remember we always took a lot of pride in keeping our students in our own schools, that we developed a great deal of programs towards achieving that goal. And I understand that that's not always possible, that there are situations that a student does need to go out of district. Just out of curiosity, how many students are we sending out of district?
Currently, we have, Kim, 22 students.
Okay. Thank you. And then there's a budget item that's education reimbursement for the faculty.
Where are you looking, Rich?
Oh, gosh.
Okay,
Tuition reimbursement.
got it, yep.
I forget the number.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, is that completely used each year, and how many teachers are using that?
We do have teachers that, yeah, I don't know if it's
I'm going to tell you right in 2 seconds. So this year, we paid out $82,230. And that represents, so I'll just give you the total number. It varies, the amount varies.
I think hence why we didn't change.
Just a rough ballpark is fine.
$22.
22? Okay.
And it is capped at the 85. That's why you see the 85,000.
Right.
We get notice in advance of the teachers that plan to apply for it, so that's why you see the 85. In the past, we've had a little bit less that we've budgeted, but as you can see this year and
Right.
next year, that's why you saw 65,000 for last year's budget, and there's a big budgeted item, but we went over a little last year. We had 71,000. So this year we anticipate 85, and we anticipate 85
Okay.
for next year.
Thank you. For that educational reimbursement, does the district have a set of criteria for courses that are expected to be taken? That it's not just any course can be taken, but something that will address district needs and district shortfalls?
Yeah, that's generally what it always is. You have to attain a B or better in the course, as well as a certified, accredited college. So yeah, there's specific criteria.
And it goes to the it goes to
Yeah,
Jeff first to
yeah.
approve.
I review it first.
They can't just take the class until Jeff.
Exactly. And some we've denied, which, aren't through an accredited institution.
Oh, okay, okay. So there are certain courses that you're looking for faculty to take?
Yeah, generally they're looking to improve, the work that they're currently doing. So it's an offset, or if you're going for administrative certification, that's a whole other set of courses. You oftentimes see individuals going to get their O92, which is
Okay.
the administrative certification.
For the number of O92s that have been granted by our teachers using this reimbursement, how many have remained in the district and how many have left the district to pursue that O92 position?
I have no idea what the exact number would be, but just in looking at the retainment of our staff, not a lot have left, Barry. So we'd have to go back and, I don't know if there's a way to calculate that or not. Those that have
Okay,
that have left, that had, that got their own 92 and then left.
okay. My concern is,
Yeah, I mean, most
That-
every district has, of course, has tuition reimbursement.
Right.
So just to that point.
right, I'm just talking about the school system's needs. If we're saying we're at the right level of administrators right now,
Yep.
and we don't need any more, and we don't have flashing lights that somebody's going to retire and we need to replace them and we want to replace internally, do we need to support people pursuing O92s versus just courses that will help them improve their teaching?
So you say kind of a combination of
Yeah,
both is what, yeah.
what's
That's what we're seeing.
Yeah, what's the school system's philosophy?
Well, I think we do try and Well, there's two pieces to that. We always look at the quality of the individual. We've had a mixture of internal folks that have risen through the teaching ranks. I'll give you an example. Our high school principal right now, Henry Kidd, has been with us for over 20 years. So he was a teacher at the high school. He earned that position through the person that he is and the quality of work that he produces. We've also brought in other outstanding individuals, district level, whether it be principal, assistant principal level, people that are sitting here before. Kim, I think you've risen up the ranks, but Mariana came from other districts, and Elise came from other districts. Dr. Lunda as well. So, we find the best and most qualified people that we can.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then the last question, AI gets bantied around, and whether you want to do ChatGPT or you want to do Claude or I think one's Harry or something. Have
A lot
you
of them out there.
have you ever utilized AI for one of two purposes? One, looking at your transportation routes and stops, because you mentioned number of stops. I've literally seen a bus stop beginning of a block, the end of the block, the middle of the next block for somebody's house. And I don't know that that's your route or if that's just bus driver motivation. But it seems to me if the general observation is that people are seeing mostly empty buses, which I understand the state law that you have to provide transportation in case everybody decided to take the bus. But more often than not, people do see empty buses. And I'm just thinking either that we move to smaller buses or that we change our routes, have kids walk a little bit. I understand there are some places where it's not safe to walk, but I think the utilization of some kind of AI program might help to optimize this because it's a large amount in the budget. And I also think that perhaps a regional approach to going after these contracts, I don't know if that's been looked at all.
We did,
But that
yeah.
might be a big save.
Yeah, that was what we did. Waterford now uses
Yeah.
First Student.
Yeah.
We looked at that as a partnership to drive down that
Okay.
increase. So they weren't using First Student previously. So
Right.
we timed ourselves in years of contracts to be able to do that
Okay,
years
fantastic.
back. So.
And then in terms of the general budget, Scott started our whole discussion by kind of giving you a little palpitation there with the 3% number. I honestly, we have not started any deliberations, so that was just a ballpark thing. But have you ever used any AI tools that, even with the fixed costs that you have, if you were to model in, let's say, a 5% increase, a 4% increase, a 3% increase, where are the areas that would most efficiently achieve those goals and still maintain our high level in our schools?
I don't think you're going to see a decline in your growth and achievement with that great or that sizable of a cut. I wholeheartedly believe that. Now, there are areas, it comes down to there's staffing components of that. That's all that's left when you're talking about those large size numbers. So I honestly would have to go back and, and scour through, all of our, our buildings, our staffing levels again, which, we've been doing, but it would really be significantly impactful, that much of a reduction. You're talking, $1 million alone, it's 11, 12, 13 staff members easily, or more. So, but we would have to go back and really take a look at that. So my apologies for kind of getting caught off guard with that question, but that's a very tough question to stand up here
I don't blame you.
and respond to, So.
I don't blame you. I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if this could be a good exercise for the district, if not to apply for this year, at least moving forward, think in these streams of thought. You have a facilities IT person there. He could handle it with the AI. Or if your IT isn't up to it, you could probably utilize the town's IT. So
Yeah.
just, we have to go beyond what our normal practices are. We're not in normal times. And I appreciate your efforts, and I appreciate your presentations, and I appreciate the education our kids are getting. So thank you very much.
Appreciate the feedback and the questions, and a lot of good points.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
I have just two.
Okay.
So section 5 in the binder, revenue and grants. The amount of, I rounded up 1.7 million. It's labeled federal and state, but it's not clear to me how much is federal and how much is state. So I think it would be helpful for us to know what is at risk from a federal funding standpoint versus a state.
We could break that down as to what's.
I think that would be helpful.
Yeah,
just so
we
that
can
know
identify
at risk
what's, what's,
federally.
a lot of these are driven by, federal grants, but we could break that down.
I'll break it down, but educator, I have it on the next page, but educators rising mini grant and up is federal, Kim? Or going down from idea down to educators rising grant is federal?
So they're all federal, those
And
first
then
one,
for
two,
adult
three.
education-
Oh, sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
even
no.
see that. Okay,
No,
I'm good
it
then.
doesn't tell you, I'm just telling you because I know, but I will separate it out.
Okay.
I'll separate it out.
Okay, and then we didn't get to talk about the capital. Is that a separate meeting, Kevin, or is it for here?
It's on the agenda, so
Okay. So I just wanted to quickly point out the HVAC inspections. So I'm pretty sure inspections are not capitalizable, if that's a word, capitalizable. And 24,120 is below the $25,000 threshold that Superintendent Newton mentioned, so I think that should get pulled out. I also would just like to call out, I appreciate that we have to continually reinvest in our mechanical, electrical, and our plumbing, our building infrastructures. But the way that the capital funding request for HVAC is written, I don't get the sense that there's a clear assessment of our HVAC systems. It's just like it reads like we're just gonna replace a bunch of stuff each year for between 300 and 600,000, and that doesn't feel like a good plan to me. I'm used to seeing infrastructure assessments.
Yeah, we have a whole laid out plan as to when those are rooftop units. And that HVAC piece that you mentioned, that's a new state mandate now,
Well,
an unfunded
that's fine,
mandate.
but it reads like, it doesn't read with any detail. So I'm just pointing that out. The same, I think the roof, it's in good condition. I don't know why we would have to do it right now. Like, we have to trim our capital funding. So I'm just pointing out,
Which roof are you talking about, Kim?
it says roof life extension
Page 3.
restoration.
Yeah, it's the middle school. Yep. Which
So-
we've been on a plan, and we're in the last two phases of that plan, so
Yeah.
3/4 of it's already been done.
I understand that, but we're in a very tight capital situation for the next 3 to 4 years, so I'm just pointing out things that may be able to be moved, but definitely the indoor quality inspections, those should not be capitalized. And then I'm also, while I can appreciate we continually need to buy devices for our students, I think at $500,000 a clip, that I would like to really understand and see the numbers behind that. That's like over 500 devices a year, and
Yeah, we have the information if you want. It's a whole cycle process.
I understand
where
that, but
devices are used.
Chromebooks can last several years, so.
Yeah, they do. That's what we have a cycle of, the 4 to 5 year, 4
Chris?
year usage.
Could you also email that to?
Yeah, I can present it now or just forward it.
Yeah, you can go ahead and present it,
Sure.
but it'd be nice to
So,
forward it since Scott's not here.
Yes, so the way we manage our devices for the students is as they're incoming at kindergarten, they get a device. When they get to the middle school, they get a new device because it's 4 years old basically by that time. And then when they get to high school, they get a new device, which is a PC. So Based on what we're expecting for turnover next year, we'll be buying 335 Chromebooks for $116,000 and 215 of the PCs that the high school students get, and that's $167,000. And then we also are at the point where it's time to recapitalize the elementary school teachers' devices. So there's 100 more devices there for another $115,000. And we also use the clear touch boards, the smart screen type boards in the classrooms, which although we think of it as a big TV, it's also a computer as well, and they have a refresh rate of about every 4 years. So we have a number of those to do as well. So our initial budget came in above that 500. We moved it down to 499 at the capital committee discussions, and that's where those numbers come from. But happy to forward those along.
And
Yeah, appreciate
well,
that.
could you maybe describe what would happen if we only funded that at 50%? Like, where would you make choices?
I don't know about where we could talk about choices, but I can tell you that, you know, at the end of those periods where we're refreshing the devices, the IT folks that work for me, they go through all the devices and they pull out the ones that they think are salvageable and might last for another year or two, and we keep those on the shelves for spares because inevitably somebody sticks a pencil in a headphone jack, or something gets dropped, or, you know, these are under warranty as well, so we send them out for warranty. So we do keep spares on hand so that we can hand out devices. But, you know, at any given time, you know, at the middle school or at the high school, you know, I can use the high school as the best example because the Ben McCarthy, our IT manager, his shop is there, and I'll go over for a meeting with them. And any given time, any period of the day, 2 or 3 students are coming in. Here's my PC, my laptop's not working. I need to get back to class. We'll give them a device. They'll fix it, whatever they need to do, and they'll swap it out in later. So right there, if there's a couple of devices that we don't have, there's 2 or 3 students that period that aren't engaging in the class. So Annalise can obviously talk more because she's more on the curriculum side, whereas I'm on the infrastructure side.
And can I just ask why high schoolers require PCs? I mean, most college students are required to have Chromebooks. So why do our high schoolers have to have PCs?
The programming on the PC supports our curricular areas in math and a lot of the technology education classes. Some of our more robust programming for computer science happens on the PC.
What's the date on Chromebooks at the upper levels? I've never heard that before. I hear the opposite, actually.
Okay, well,
Yeah, that Chromebooks aren't functional enough to support those higher level ends, again, software.
okay. I'll retract
Yeah,
my comment.
Well, I just was
I happen to
curious. I've
have
never
a
heard that
college
before.
student,
But-
and he
I-
only
yeah,
requires a
sure.
Chromebook, and it's a pretty good school, so I'm just assuming most
yeah.
science kids can get by with the Chromebook, but maybe mine is goofing off. I have no idea.
Listen, sure.
If I may follow on with Kim on that, I'm just wondering, in terms of the use of the hardware, is it mostly email or
Oh, no.
mostly curriculum or,
And Google Classroom, I mean, everything is running through device usage.
Yeah.
He's shaking his
Yeah.
head here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I watch my own daughter, that's what she's on every night, doing her assignments, submitting her assignments to her teachers, getting feedback from her teachers, all through their devices.
okay, now could that be more on a cloud-based system to be able to utilize Chromebooks? Do you need the computing capacity of the PCs?
Well, again, right now we do because of the software programs that we have. Yeah, yep.
But
but-
how many kids are in the software programming?
Well,
It's also, so Microsoft Excel platforms, the math classes, when they teach in the Excel platform, it's more robust than the Google Sheets platform as well. Additionally, part of our digital citizenship and our ISTE standards, so we're, K-12 aligned, is about teaching our students how to navigate both the Google platform and the Microsoft space, because a lot of post-secondary schools actually only use the Microsoft space. I know there are some that do use Google, but we like to prepare our students to be proficient on both ends, so that they can successfully transition, whether it's into college or career. So that is also a part of why we go to the PC in the upper grades.
Okay. And one last extension off of Kim's is if the technology funds were not available this year, would you be able to extend the life 1 year, have 1 year where you pass on it and then kind of start up again?
So I can go
Or
back and look at
change
the
the
data.
life
I do
cycle.
think we get to a point with the devices where the amount coming in for refurbishment and repair far outweighs. We made reductions in our tech staff as well, so we have less tech staff in the building to support those tech needs. It just outweighs, the staffing we have internally to support the need for break fix. They do reach a point where they just become ineffective tools. We've found the 4-year point is the sweet spot, and also I believe that's 1 year off warranty too, right?
Yes.
So we go 3 years with a warranty. The 4th year, we expand that 1 more year off warranty. And that year's the year that gets a little dicey for us in terms of maintaining the break fix and with the staff we have.
It's not necessarily the technology at that point is failing, it's the human interactions with the technology. So we get beat up by that time.
Okay.
Could
Thank
I
you.
ask, I'm sorry, I'm just curious, what happens with all these devices at year 4, at the end of year 4? Where do they go? Do we pay to have them disposed of?
So as Chris said, some of them get recycled. We bring them back into, district, and they're used as loaners. Actually, we will actually replace some of the para devices with some of the older devices from students as well. But we have an e-waste company. I don't believe we pay for the e-waste pickup. It's free to pick up, and we have partnerships with e-waste who come and pick up the equipment, and it's recycled accordingly and responsibly.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Anything else? Okay. Well, it seems like we've gotten through the agenda and we're at the point where if there's any public discussion, if anybody from the public wants to come up and say a few words. I see Candace. Please identify yourself and your address.
Yes, I know the drill. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Candace Carlson. I live at 50 Riverview Road. I am here as a select woman tonight as well as a community member. First, thank you for all that you do. I appreciate you. I hope that you all have reviewed the Board of Selectmen deliberations to help guide you in areas that can additionally be reduced on the town side. For myself, I felt more reductions could have been made. It's the first budget that I have not supported. In regard to the Board of Ed budget, no matter what hat I have on, I believe investment in our schools is a win-win. This year's budget collectively is unsustainable, collectively, on both sides. And I have noted this already. Scapegoating the Board of Education or their budget is not okay from anyone. Collectively unsustainable, a mill rate of this projection is not absorbable, in my opinion. With that said, a $1.6 million reduction in the Board of Ed side would cripple our school district. Understanding a decrease may be requested, but a 1.6 is unreasonable and irresponsible. If you're looking for a $1.6 million reduction, I'd urge you to focus in on the town side of the budget along with the Board of Ed's budget. Additionally, the capital improvement plan and cash capital. I had stated in another meeting that what's in front of us is challenging, but what's coming down the road is also going to be very challenging. So when I look at a projected mill rate of that size, that is not something that I want to participate in and or project onto our community with fear that down the road there might be something that's coming that we do not have a choice in. I don't want to see our community at a 32, a 34, oh my gosh, a 40 mill rate. And I'm very concerned. As do I think everybody else is too, to be honest with you. To answer you, Barry, your question, what would I say if someone came to my door on education and money? I'd invite them in. I'd talk about the state of Connecticut's unfunded mandates and how the cost is pushed off onto the taxpayer by design from the state level. I'd note the unfairness of it and in turn, share my frustrations. Then I talk about what investment in our school districts means to our community and to me, but to our community. Our home values, the businesses, the benefits of having what is referred to as a great school district. And the truth is people move into East Lyme for the schools and the community that we have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Candace. Any others? Jill? Mike will get to you.
My name is Jill Salmons-Carini. I live at 10 Quarry Lane. I'm going to speak as a parent. Let's pretend I'm not on the Board of Ed, because I'm not on the Board of Ed. Barry, you made the comment about how successful these students are. What I should have done, if I'd known that you needed that, I would have gotten a collection of resumes from my daughter's friends and brought them in to show you how well they've done in their life and how they're successful, and they'll continue to be even more successful. One of the things my daughter said to me when she went away to college, she came home and she said, "Mom, none of these people know how to study. They didn't teach them how to study in their high school." And I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you asked me for a $6,000 check, I'd probably write it because I like living here. I love it. It's a great town. I think if any of you were asked that question, you would feel the same way. It's a nice place to live. So what I'm saying as a parent, I moved here 10 years before I was even thought of having children because I wanted a good school system. Since then, my daughter's gone through the school system. She's, in my opinion, a very successful adult. I can bring her in here for an interview and you can meet her. But I guess the thing is the same thing as Candace is saying, I love this town. I don't want it to change. One of the key driving points is, besides the boardwalk and the beach, is the school system. And I know sometimes it's hard to translate. I'm becoming a Board of Ed member, I'm sorry. So what I'm trying to say is, I'm willing to pay the $6,000 to live in this town. It's worth every penny. And in regards to the buses, I see one stop in front of my house every day. I jumped up the first couple of times I saw it. Well, then I figured out it was a kindergartner. So I guess we have to drop them off at their house. So, Barry, I'm going to stroke a check to you, Jeff, tomorrow. So I can continue to stay in this town and enjoy it for what it is. Besides the school system, we have fabulous, fabulous town services. Fabulous. I don't have a sewer, but I'm waiting on my sewer. But what I'm saying is there are so many benefits. Didn't you like going to the East Lyme school system? We got a live one right here. So, you guys, I know it's hard. We are two-thirds of the budget, but it brings so many advantages to our town, and I guess I'm going to end it right there. So, whatever you need to do, and I understand. And I am on a fixed income, but I'm ready to write the $6,000 check. Tell me where you want it deposited, and I'll do it.
Thank you, Jill. Anybody else? Oh, okay. Thanks, Jamie. Okay, Mike, I know you introduced yourself before, but you got to go through the routine again.
That's just fine. Mike Schultz, I'm Lover's Lane in East Lyme. I wanted to ask if Mr. Newton knew what the, on the ECS funding, what the cutoff is on that with respect to, what are we getting from the ECS funding for education, if you happen to have
Yeah, just over 6 million currently.
6
We're
million?
held harmless for one more year, and then from there it's supposed to decrease. So this goes back to our battle with the state. We need the state to fund education more across towns.
What do you mean, that statement about
Because
held harmless?
if it starts to go down, that money is coming now. Taxpayers are going to have to either absorb that, or what are we going to do? Because that's 6 million, or just over $6 million currently. That's supposed to decline steadily over the coming years, but held harmless for one more year.
Down steadily down to a point where they won't?
So is it 2 more? Oh, it is the 20. So that's what I meant. Yeah, after the 26-27 budget year, there's one more year. Sorry, I was still in it.
And then what happens?
And then we decreased by 194,149 the first. That's 29. 388,000, 2030. 582,000. It continues to ramp up to 2035. 1,358,633.
So are we going to get to a point where we're going to get hardly any ECS?
Well, that's what their formula is saying.
Yeah.
But, hopefully this will change. We're doing a lot of, having a lot of conversations with legislators around this.
You can sell a lot of cans and soda bottles?
I don't want to do that. I want the state to provide with the money that they need to provide.
Well, on this per pupil expenditure, the $23,245, is that inclusive of the state funding, or?
Yeah, that's just a set formula.
Would that, I mean, say for example, the state funding all of a sudden went away. Would this cost per student to arts, the taxpayer, still be $23,245?
Well, no, so that's based on expenditures. It's based on the expenditures, so it's based on the 63 million. There's a formula, there's a formula.
Separate.
But the state is kicking $6 million into our budget, right?
Correct, but
that's a revenue. That's part that goes to the
that
town.
goes to the town.
Yeah, that's not part of that.
Yep, then if it goes to the town, then doesn't the town have to provide it
You're
to you?
So you're, I should answer.
So,
So,
Mike, it's
I'm kind of thick, but it
so Mike, it's the,
seems to me if $6 million goes away, somebody's going to eat that.
correct, so it's, that $6 million offsets taxes. So it's already in the budget, it's part of the $11 million roughly we get for intergovernmental revenue. So in your scenario, if, say that vanished tomorrow, the taxpayer would have to absorb that $6 million that the state currently pays. But that wouldn't change the per pupil expenditure
On that one,
amount.
okay.
Yep, that's just the revenue side of it. That would affect your taxes,
All right.
but not the per pupil expenditure
Yeah,
side.
well, good luck to the town in on that one, huh? All right, special education, I was wondering what the cutoff is on that, where the state kicks in. Is there a number? 25, I mean,
4 times the per pupil. 4.5 times.
Four-
4.5 times the per pupil.
4.5 times.
That's when they start.
So that'd be 4.5 times 23,000 something. Okay, and then lastly, I just was curious as to, it's easy to me, I mean, it's easy to say that I've been an instructor already, I haven't been a teacher, but I know gosh darn well it's very difficult to be a teacher. But not everybody is attuned to being a teacher either. And and we're expecting, it seems like, it always seems like we're dumping the whole load of educating the kids on the teachers. And in your experience, are you getting great participation from the parents? I mean, should not the parents be the ones that are really making sure the kids come to school and learn and go home and do their studies and stuff? And so don't we have to do this much more in our expenses?
They should be an active participant.
Yeah, are you seeing that?
Some are, and some aren't, unfortunately. But I think it's a mixed element.
Okay, Mike, just a few more questions, please.
Oh, I can rattle on forever.
Mike, I'm happy to talk to you too, while,
I know. I appreciate it. Sorry. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, and I see Jamie.
No.
Okay, Jamie, you wanted to come up.
Thank you. Jamie Barr Shelburne, 31 McElhaney Drive. First of all, for those of you who do not know, I just wanted to take the minute to congratulate Jeff Newton for being Superintendent of the Year. For those of you who do not know, East Lyme has great leadership under Jeff Newton. But I wanted to circle back and just give a little bit of context that earlier this year, January of this year, East Lyme, well, all of the Board of Eds were given this 60-page document from the attorneys. 60 pages, 294 state mandates, and I took the time to go through them and color them. So red has no money. Green has money. I'll flip. I know you can see. That gives you an idea of what we're up against. I know Candace hit on it earlier. The way that the state of Connecticut funds education is backwards. I know Jason went up to the state earlier. I went up to the state earlier this month. You have to talk to your legislators. You have to talk to your governor. There has to be a better way for the state of Connecticut to fund education. I've been to national conferences. I've talked to national boards, other boards in other states. We are one of the only states in the union that funds education this way. It is backwards. Something has to be done. Write a letter to your legislator. Call Nick, call Martha, call someone. Something has to be done. And that's where I'm coming from. I know you guys know it. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but more voices makes more action happen. That is it.
Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
Anybody else from the public? Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay. It's time for board comments, if anybody has any comments. Lauren? No. Kim?
Nothing more.
Mary? Nothing? Sandy, nothing? Well, I appreciate you coming and making the presentation and answering all the questions. And as I mentioned, we haven't even started deliberations, so, hold still for now. And we'll try our best to make everybody happy. Okay. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
So
Okay, second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstain? Meeting adjourned.